Hello and welcome again to my Physical Science Online Lab video series. In today's video I want to do a very brief walkthrough of the Force and Pressure Lab. This lab is an oddity so far among the videos that I've made, in that it's a lab that's relatively straightforward and to actually do, and at the same time relatively not straightforward for me to actually video with the webcam that I have. So bear with me on that, I suppose. This lab, you need three pieces of equipment ultimately. The first is that you need a tire gauge of some sort. This is so that you can read the pressure in your tire. It doesn't have to be the dial type like this guy that I have. It can be, for example, one of those pin gauges where you stick it in and then the little pin pops up showing what pressure it is. You just want it to give you a pressure, preferably in units of pounds per square inch, because that's what you're going to have to get for the lab itself. The second piece of equipment that you will need is some graphing paper, something that looks like this. It's broken up into sort of the checkerboarded pattern. Each little square has some known size, etc. And last but not least, since this is a pressure lab that uses a car, you will need a car. So here is a car. You can use car, truck, SUV, whatever your automobile happens to be. So since it's a little difficult to get a webcam to record outside, I just brought a little show model. The actual experiment is relatively straightforward. You are making use of the fact that pressure is force per unit area. You're making use of the fact that when a car is at rest outside, sitting on the ground, these tires all have some amount of contact with the ground. They don't make a perfect circle. They kind of flatten at the bottom where the car is resting on it. So you can use the pressure gauge to measure the tire pressure for each of the four tires. I think you should probably expect something like 29-ish pounds per square inch, depending upon your vehicle. 28, 29, 30 pounds per square inch, somewhere in there. What the graph paper is used for is that these tires are not really smooth on the bottom. They have some sort of tread, and that's what's largely making contact with the ground. So you basically want to place the piece of graph paper underneath your car's tires, and that should leave some impression on the graph paper. You can then drive the car off, and then you can use the little squares to get an estimate for the area of the tire that's making contact with the ground. You can also try tracing around with like a pen or pencil. If you know what the pressure is for all four tires, and you know what area those tires have in contact with the ground, then you also know how much force is being, applied between ground and tire. And that force also tells you how much force is available to support the weight of the car. And since the car rests gently on the ground instead of either floating off of it or sinking into it, you know that the force that is between the ground and the car is equal to the force of gravity acting on the car. So it's a relatively straightforward calculation to take those four tires' pressures, multiply each pressure by its respective area, add them together, and what you get is the total force of the ground upward on the car, which should also equal the car's weight. So as long as you have a car that's unloaded, like so, no passengers inside, no gear, nothing like that, then that weight should just be the weight of the car itself, plus or minus for maybe some of the fluids are in it, but that should be relatively negligible. Even if you have like a full tank of gas or whatever, that should be relatively negligible next to, a group of people or a bunch of really heavy gear or whatever you haul in the back of your pickup truck. You should be able to look up what the car's weight is in your owner's manual, or else look it up online, and you can compare that standard weight that's given by the manufacturer to the weight that is obtained by this method. And so from there you do like a percent error comparison. So experiment minus theory divided by experiment, all times 100%. The experiment in this case you get from measuring the force in the tires, measuring the pressure in the tires and converting that into a force. The theory is whatever is the standard value from your user manual or the internet. And if you happen to live in certain areas, sometimes there's little weigh stations that semi-trucks drive through. If it's the right time of day, sometimes you can drive through one of those and there's no trucks waiting, and you can actually weigh what your car is to the nearest like 25 or 50 pounds. So that gives you a third thing that you can compare to if you so desire, although probably you have to include the weight of your passengers at that point. So that's a brief walkthrough then of this entire lab. This should be a relatively fast lab for all of you. So I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope you found this video helpful, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. So long.